We start our movie today with a married woman with a good family name, Alice, and we learn that her husband's name is Jack, and they are having a party at their house, and Alice is very unhappy. She dances while holding the cups on her mind, and this is because they are drinking and are not aware of their behavior at all, and then we see them going out. She is her husband, Jack, and they keep rolling around in the car and laughing, and Jack makes Alice faint while she is driving, but she comes back safe and sound, and they return home looking good, and the second day in the morning, Alice wakes up from sleep and prepares breakfast like any woman in the world. The world knows her husband that she will go to a friend of hers named Bonnie to play tennis after the party. She will have at her house at the end of the week, and we know that each of them has a party at her house at the end of every week, and the last week it will be at Olesna EUR's, but the next week will be at Banya EUR's over her. Jack agrees, but suddenly there is a strange earthquake, like an earthquake like this happens, but they are engaged in this conversation, and then Jack leaves to go to work, so I go out after Alice and give him a bag, and he walks in the car, and all the men do this, and he reaches Victoria EUR's headquarters, which is in the middle of the desert, and we return to Alyssa EUR's and we see her and her. She arranges the house and cleans every place in it like any other very normal housewife. Then she goes out with her friends and they take the bus and then go to the yoga hall. There she tells one of her friends that they are going to build an apartment building, despite the fact that her husband told her not to say anything in front of anyone. At this moment, the trainer enters. Her name is Ashley, and she meets a new woman, and she tells them that her husband has started working on the Victoria project, so she will stay with them in yoga practice. Her name will be Sarah, and then she starts exercising, and the women continue to act like statues, except for Alice. She loves his path and gives her body away so that she remains like them, and when they return home, Alice continues enjoying the house, but while she is doing the laundry, she comes to her and learns that her husband is getting promoted at his job, and she tells her, "A circumflexy you are. I see how the new employee is doing, even though his wife is a very beautiful woman. A circumflexy you are." At the same time, Alyssa EUR's eyes come to the brunette woman who is standing on the other side, and she has a toy airplane in her hands. And we know her name is Margaret, so Alice remains surprised as to why she stopped like that. Then Alice comes down and prepares lunch because her husband was about to arrive, but while she was making the food, all the eggs became different, so she was very shocked, and in shock, her food was burning, but she catches herself and removes the food from the fire. And at night, when her husband arrives, she finished everything she had to do, and she also prepared herself and was greeted by her husband. The best reception, and the next day they were all at the house of the head of the Victoria project, and the women were all gathering at the swimming pool and starting to get to know the new neighbor, I repeat. And in the middle of what they were sitting, they were asking, "A circumflex urary. Now aren't you going to bring kids, or what EUR's wrong with her? A circumflex EUR." Alice continues to see very frightening fantasies, and these hallucinations are worse, and she responds to them and tells them that she herself will leave behind 4 children, and they will have 2 sons and 2 daughters, but when God commands, she is walking and sees the design of the new project and understands that there are only employees who can enter the project, and then she calls her that she knows she loves her children very much, and then they go and talk to Sarah while they are standing. Alice listens to her husband and Bonnie's husband talking to the new employee who is Sarah's husband, and we know that his name is John, and Jack tells him that he will like life here very much as long as he does not interfere in what he has no interest in. At this time, Ashley appears, and we know that she is the wife of President Frank, who is responsible for the project, and she starts talking about the project, its possibilities, and what else will happen to them when the project is finished. Then, Margaret enters and tells them that they are not supposed to be here, but she does not finish her words, and her husband takes her and walks away. At this moment, Frank quickly enters and kisses his wife and begins to cover up Margaret Eur's words and tells her that she is a little tired because she and her husband have some problems like that, so she says something and he continues and says that this project is a city in the middle of a desert, but it will be an integrated building far from the noise and the problems, as he does this in order to completely distance themselves from the outside world, and this remains an experience, and it becomes clear to all of them that they are very happy and love his words. And they keep repeating Frank Eur's name, and he continues talking. After that, and they learn about a partner in the project, whose name is Dr. Colin, and he learns that he will be the first person to live in this project, and then he comes out and takes his wife in an embrace, and at that time, Dosna Ewart she discover that her husband has disappeared when she goes to see where he has gone. She also sees Margaret repeating the same things, so she remains very surprised, and when she goes, she helps her husband tie his crochet and keeps thinking that he is upset, so he smiles at her and tells her that there is nothing wrong, and then we see the women are gathered together in the beauty center, and she smiles at the women and tells them, "A circumflexy you are. What are the men here doing?" And at that time they all don't you are no, a circumflexy you are. Then she tells them about Margaret and tells him that she was their friend. Very normal, until the day came and she went to the forbidden point in the desert, and when her son ran away from it, he disappeared at that time, and you know that Frank's only condition is that they do not go to the forbidden point, and that one of them remains aware of what is happening at the project headquarters, and she was still going to speak, but I stop her, and at this moment, the same hallucinations that come to her come to Alice. And you also see her sleeping next to her husband, and it is the second day in the morning. Jack goes to work and Alice takes him to work like every day and tidies her house as usual. But while she is cleaning, she hears on the radio the importance of the project, and they are careful not to go outside the city because of the safety concerns for their health. She decides to go to the forbidden point in the desert and ride with one of the buses, and when she arrives at the place of the yoga hall, it stops. She wants to go down, but she tells him that she will go down the road. While she is walking, she sees a plane landing there. So she decides to go down and also asks the man to go down with her, but he refuses, so she enters the forbidden road and keeps walking until she reaches the mountain where the site is located, and when she gets out, she keeps calling for anyone to help her, but no one responds to her, so she loves the buildings herself, and also places her brain on the windows, and has the hope of seeing anything, but at this moment she does not feel herself, and she loses consciousness, and at that time she sees the same imaginations that she sees, and she also sees new things, like ballet dancers, and they do very strange things, and suddenly she finds herself asleep at home. When she gets up, I find Jack making her food, and when she tells him about what happened to her, Jack responds to her and tells her that you were definitely dreaming, and he understands that nothing happened in all of this, so it turns out that you were right, and here they continue to laugh. On Monday, and the next day, Jack goes to work. As usual, she came in and was cleaning the house, and while she was polishing the gloves, she found that the guard was turning her off until the phone was ringing, and after that, everything went back to how it was, and when she answered the phone, she would be the one talking to Margaret, and she would say to her, "A circumflex Yuri Huo went to the website, and you must have seen what is happening there. A circumflexy you are. By the way, we're not supposed to be here." Alice thinks she's crazy and closes the door in her face, but between herself and herself there's actually a doubt that she went there. But while she's in yoga class, she sees Margaret banging her brains in the gloves. Above her, she sounds from this side, but she's different from her brain, even if it's at all. Nothing happens to her. She feels extremely embarrassed. And then soon decides to go to Margaret's. When she goes there, she sees her standing on top of the house. She was still going to call her to talk to her. She throws herself off the top of the house and thus kills herself. We see two of the employees moving Alice away from the place. She goes home and is making dinner. She tells her husband about what happened, but he acts as usual and does not believe her. He tries to convince her that what happened with Margaret was due to her psychological fatigue. At this moment, Alice becomes upset with herself and asks what he is working on at the project site. Jack looks at her and tells her that he is working there as an engineer, and then he keeps yelling at her and telling her, "A circumflexy you are, stop doubting her, a circumflexy you are." He tells her that because of what she is doing, he will be fired from his job. And then we see Alice watching TV. Above her, she sees an advertisement for the project. And at this moment she feels like she is underwater, but for once, this exceeds her imagination. The next day, Jack wakes up and goes to work, but Alice does what she used to do every day. But while she is getting ready, it comes to her mind that she might be dead, so she grabs the bandage and rubs her brain to find out if she is alive or not. When she finds herself really alive, she cuts the bandage and then decides to go to the doctor, but Jack the doctor brings her home, and Dr. Colin comes out, and when he measures her blood pressure, he tells her that she is fine, and he knows that these hallucinations may occur due to fatigue. But while he is writing the treatment for her, she takes her mind from a file he has in the bag that it is Margaret EUR's file, so she asks how you were able to treat Margaret who fell ill. He told her that he knew how to treat her body, but her psychology, he didn't treat her. That's why she threw herself off the house, and unfortunately she committed suicide. After that, the doctor goes out with Jack and forgets his bag with her, so she starts taking the file from the bag. Then Jack comes back and takes the bag and walks away, but she continues reading the file, but she doesn't understand anything, and this is because the words are written in a very strange way, and when she sees the report he wrote about Margaret, she immediately burns the book and throws it in the garbage. At the same time, she sees Margaret sitting on the chair in front of her, so she quickly runs to take a shower. But while she is in the bathtub, she also sees these fantasies. He suddenly came out of the bathtub, and at the same moment, her husband enters her and keeps saying sweet things to her, letting her know that he loves her very much, and then he asks her to wear the best thing she has, and this is because they are invited to a party with Frank, her friend. And we actually see her and Jack at the party. And they also see her friends, and after that, they start celebrating with them. Sometimes, during the celebration, Alice sees that the same rug in the place is the one she sees in her imagination, and then we see Mark starting to speak, but Alice is very tired, and when she asks her husband to go with her, he refuses and tells her to wait until the party is over, and he starts talking. Frank calls for Jack and stays in front of everyone present. He thanks Jack, and at that time, Jack actually gets promoted and gives him a ring as a gift. And then Jack keeps dancing and Alice leaves the place and keeps crying at the same time. She goes out and sees Bonnie, and when she asks her what's wrong with her, she responds to her and tells her, "Isn't it because of everything that happened to her?" Alice reacts when she tells her to be completely silent. "I want to hear a word from you, but I also don't want you to talk about this conversation again so that it doesn't happen to you like what happened to Margaret." The next day, Alice wakes up to make her meal, but while she is preparing breakfast, Jack is telling her about his new job, and he knows that Frank loves him very much, so they gave her the job. Then he goes to work and she does the housework as usual, and Jack is throwing a party on the occasion of his promotion at work, and they are all there, even Frank, and Frank goes to Alice to talk to him, and he knows that she knew everything, and he also knows that she took the Dr. EUR's file, and he apologizes to her for that. No one believes her and knows that he wants to challenge her, and then he leaves her and walks over to her. She will be shocked by what he is saying. When they sit down for dinner, Alice sits down, meaning Frank is on the trip, and Alice begins to tell them, a circumflex Yuri Huo Didna Yurt. Realize that we all went to the same school, and also to the same university, and also got married in the same place a circumflex EUR he did. And let you know that all of this happened, and you should be aware that there is something strange or something, and she is doing this to make them suspicious of Frank, and after they all leave, Jackie keeps blaming her for what she is doing, and he knows that because of her he will lose everything he did, so she responds to him and tells him, I love you so much. Come on, we walk from here and I agree to go with you to any other place, but we stay away from here. The most important thing. At this moment, Jack agrees with her words and takes him to so that they can leave the house, but we understand. He turns to laugh at her and also hands over to Frank EUR's men, and after they take her, Jack keeps crying at her, and then we see them taking it. Didn't they give her a brainwashing operation so that she would lose her memory and take in with her? Isn't there a flashback, and we know that in the past she was working as a nurse, but he was still working as an accountant, and the world with them remains like asphalt. Jack sees Frank's advertisement, and they are reading, and he enters and says that the world belongs to Frank. And then we see Alice when she comes back from after the operation. She goes back to living her normal life until one day, when she remembers everything that happened to her, she confronts Jack and tells him, a circumflex Yuri Huo stole all my life. A circumflex EUR. Jack blames her and tells her that we did not have a life in the first place. At this time, she feels that he has no right, and when he asks her for forgiveness, she hits his brain. The two lose consciousness, and then Frank learns then Jack is dead. And we know that whoever dies in this world dies in reality, and at the same time, Bonnie interjects on them. And when she sees Jack, she tells Alice that she is running away, because if Frank catches her, he will kill her in the real world, and then she takes the car and runs to the side. At this time, they are all running after her to catch her, but she is making a plan and makes them all mess with each other, and we learn that Frank has Ashley knowing what he was doing, so some people killed him, and so Frank and Jack are dead in reality. We return to Alice's a second time and see that she has arrived at the side of the project, but Frank's men are running behind her, but she touches the penis and loses consciousness, and the movie ends. And we do not know whether she has returned to the real world or is she still in the world that Frank created, or she was even imagining all of this from the beginning, and there is nothing to it at all. But I will not leave you confused like this, and I will tell you what is in her. She is really giving up about Jack, and when she touched the boobs, she returned to her real world. But without Jack, and thus the events of our movie today end. I hope you have a good time with us. Don't you forget to, if you like the video, support us with a like and subscribe, and also activate the bell to receive all new updates. I will see if you are doing well. Peace be upon you.